The wedding ceremony took place aboard the neutral station Harmony's Rest, floating in the disputed zone between human and Zephyrian territories. Captain Marcus Chun stood at the altar, his dress uniform crisp and decorated with medals from the border wars. Across from him, Princess Laurelii of the Zephyrian Empire held herself with regal composure, her crystalline features beautiful yet alien, her 6 arms folded in the traditional pose of peaceful submission. The assembled crowd represented the most powerful beings in known space. Human admirals sat beside Zephyrian warlords, their natural enemies forced into an uneasy truce by this unprecedented union. Trade Federation representatives whispered among themselves, calculating profits from the peace this marriage would bring. Even mysterious void walkers had sent an observer, its shadowy form barely visible in the back row. Marcus had volunteered for this assignment 6 months ago when the Galactic Council proposed the marriage treaty. The Third Border War had been devastating for both species. Entire systems lay in ruins, billions dead on both sides. When Zephyrian diplomats suggested a union between their youngest princess and a human representative, the Earth Alliance jumped at the chance for peace. Do you, Marcus Chun of Earth, take Princess Laurelii as your bonded mate to serve as bridge between our peoples and guardian of galactic peace? The officiator, a neutral being from the Silicon Collective, spoke in the universal trade language. Marcus looked into Laurelii's large, violet eyes. They had spent weeks together during the engagement period, learning each other's customs and languages. She was intelligent, kind, and genuinely committed to peace between their species. He had grown to respect her, even care for her in his own way. I do, he said clearly. Do you, Princess Laurelii of the Zephyrian Empire, take Marcus Chun as your bonded mate to serve as bridge between our peoples and guardian of galactic peace? Her musical voice rang out in accented standard. I accept this bond freely, for the sake of all who wish to live without war. The ceremony concluded with the traditional mixing of their species' ceremonial substances, human water and Zephyrian liquid starlight. As they drank from the shared cup, cheers erupted from the crowd. Diplomats shook hands, planning trade routes that had been impossible during wartime. Military commanders began discussing joint training exercises instead of battle strategies. Marcus felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity did best: find solutions where others saw only problems. While other species had fought the same conflict for millennia, humans brought fresh perspectives and unconventional approaches. This marriage would be remembered as the moment peace finally came to the galaxy's most war-torn region. The reception that followed was a careful balance of human and Zephyrian traditions. Tables groaned under the weight of both familiar Earth delicacies and exotic alien cuisine. The human delegation had insisted on an open bar, while the Zephyrians contributed their famous harmony crystals that created soothing music when touched by multiple species simultaneously. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez, Marcus's commanding officer and longtime mentor, approached him during the festivities. You've done something remarkable here, Marcus. The intelligence reports show Zephyrian fleets already pulling back from contested systems. Trade ships are planning routes through sectors that have been battlefields for decades. Marcus nodded, watching Laurelii perform a traditional Zephyrian dance with several of her courtiers. Her movements were graceful and hypnotic, her crystalline skin catching the station's lights and throwing rainbow patterns across the walls. She's committed to making this work, Admiral. We both are. I know you are. But remember, this is bigger than just a marriage now. You're a symbol of human diplomacy, proof that we can achieve through cooperation what others couldn't through force. The whole galaxy is watching. As the evening progressed, Marcus mingled with representatives from dozens of species. The Aquarian ambassador, his water-filled environment suit glistening, praised humanity's innovative approach to conflict resolution. A delegation of crystalline entities hummed in harmonious approval, their song speech translating roughly to unprecedented wisdom. Even the typically hostile raptor clans had sent gifts, crude metal sculptures that represented grudging respect. During a quiet moment, Marcus stepped onto the station's observation deck. The view showed the border region in all its scarred beauty. Nebulae still glowing from recent battles, space stations being converted from military outposts to trade hubs, and, most remarkably, mixed fleets of human and Zephyrian ships on joint patrol. Lyralii joined him, her footsteps silent on the deck plating. Your people have a saying about hope being stronger than fear. I think I understand it better now. And your people have taught me that strength comes in many forms. Not just military might, but the courage to trust your former enemies. Marcus looked at his new wife, still amazed by how alien yet familiar she seemed. Are you ready for what comes next? The honeymoon tour. She smiled, an expression that was becoming more natural as she spent time around humans. Visiting the core worlds of both our civilizations, showing the galaxy that peace is possible. That's the plan. 2 weeks on New Terra, then 2 weeks on Zephyr Prime. Meeting with leaders, appearing at public events, proving that human-Zephyrian cooperation isn't just a political stunt. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication alert. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on Marcus's wrist display, her expression troubled. Marcus, we're receiving reports of unusual activity in the outer spiral. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving towards civilized space. What kind of energy signatures? Unknown. But they're big, Marcus. Really big. And they're coming from the direction of the consumed sectors. The consumed sectors were a region of space that had gone dark 50 years ago. Entire systems had simply vanished from sensor networks, leaving only empty void where thriving civilizations once existed. Most species assumed some natural disaster had occurred, a cascade of stellar collapses or dimensional anomaly. No one had ever found evidence of what really happened. How long until they reach inhabited systems? Marcus asked. At current speed, approximately 6 months. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. The galaxy had just achieved its first real peace in decades, and now some unknown threat was approaching from the darkness. Keep monitoring the situation. And, Admiral, don't release this information to the general public yet. The last thing we need is panic undermining the peace treaty before it has a chance to work. Lyralii had been listening to the conversation, her enhanced hearing picking up the Admiral's words. Marcus, if there's truly a threat coming, then our marriage is more important than ever. A united front of human and Zephyrian forces would be far stronger than either species fighting alone. You're right. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Marcus looked back at the peaceful scene inside the station. Former enemies sharing food and laughter, children of different species playing together, diplomats planning a future built on cooperation rather than conflict. Let's hope whatever's coming can be handled the same way we handled our differences, through understanding and peaceful resolution. But deep down, Marcus felt a growing sense of unease. The energy signatures Admiral Rodriguez described sounded unlike anything in the databases of any known species. And the fact that they were coming from the consumed sectors, where entire civilizations had vanished without explanation, suggested this threat might be beyond anything the galaxy had faced before. As the reception wound down and guests began returning to their ships, Marcus and Lyralii prepared for their departure to New Terra. The next phase of their mission would be even more challenging than the wedding ceremony. They would need to convince billions of humans and Zephyrians that their former enemies could become trusted allies. The luxury cruiser Harmony's Dream had been specially configured for their honeymoon tour. Half the ship was designed for human comfort, while the other half accommodated Zephyrian needs, different gravity, atmosphere, and lighting. The crew was mixed as well, with human and Zephyrian officers working side by side. It was a small-scale model of what their marriage represented for the galaxy. As they departed Harmony's Rest, Marcus watched the mixed fleets escorting them, sleek human destroyers flying in formation with elegant Zephyrian cruisers. The sight filled him with hope and pride. Humanity had once again proven that cooperation could triumph over conflict, that understanding could replace hatred. He had no way of knowing that their marriage had already set in motion events that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The energy signatures Admiral Rodriguez had detected were not random phenomena. They were a response to the peace treaty, triggered by ancient protocols that viewed cooperation between species as a dangerous anomaly requiring immediate correction. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, massive forms stirred to life. Artificial intelligences that had slumbered for millennia began awakening their weapons and calculating trajectories toward inhabited systems. The Harmony Protocol, buried deep in their programming, had been activated by the unprecedented alliance between humans and Zephyrians. Peace, their creators had decided long ago, was chaos. Only through eternal conflict could the galaxy maintain its proper order. The wedding that was meant to end the wars was about to begin the greatest conflict in galactic history. Marcus stood on the observation deck of Harmony's Dream, his arm around his new wife, watching the stars. Neither of them knew that those same stars were being marked for destruction by entities that viewed their love as an existential threat to the cosmic balance. The honeymoon was about to become a desperate fight for survival, and the man who had married for peace would soon discover that sometimes peace itself could be the most dangerous thing in the universe. Behind them, hidden in the ship's quantum communication arrays, microscopic infiltration units had already begun their work. The marriage ceremony had been broadcast across the galaxy as a symbol of hope. But that same broadcast had carried hidden data packets, downloaded by sleeper programs that had waited centuries for activation. The chaos had begun 3 days into their honeymoon cruise to New Terra. The first systems went dark. Marcus was reviewing diplomatic protocols in their shared quarters when the ship's emergency klaxons began wailing. Lyralii, who had been practicing human meditation techniques, immediately shifted into a combat stance her species had perfected over millennia of warfare. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice crackled over the intercom. All hands to battle stations. We have multiple distress signals from the Kepler sector. Long-range communications with the entire sector have been severed. Marcus and Lyralii rushed to the bridge, where the mixed human and Zephyrian crew worked frantically at their stations. The main display showed a star map with several systems marked in pulsing red, the universal symbol for lost contact. Report: Marcus ordered his diplomatic mission temporarily forgotten as his military training took over. Lieutenant Commander Torres, the human navigation officer, looked up from his console with barely concealed fear. Sir, we lost contact with 14 systems in the span of 6 hours. No distress calls, no final transmissions. They just stopped. What's the tactical assessment? Lyralii asked, her 4 primary arms working multiple control surfaces while her secondary arms maintained balance in the ship's artificial gravity. The Zephyrian tactical officer, Subcommander Vexhai, spoke in rapid clicks that the ship's translation system converted to standard speech. Long-range sensors detect massive gravitational anomalies at the edge of each dead system. Whatever destroyed them left significant spatial distortions. Marcus felt ice forming in his stomach. 14 systems represented billions of lives, humans, Zephyrians, and dozens of other species. Any survivors? Refugee ships? Evacuation fleets? Negative, sir, Torres replied grimly. Whatever hit them was fast and thorough. Captain Vasquez, a veteran of both border wars, studied the tactical display with professional calm. The attack pattern suggests coordination and overwhelming force. Multiple simultaneous strikes across a region spanning dozens of light years. Could it be a natural phenomenon? Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer. No natural disaster could affect so many systems at once, Lyralii said, her crystalline features reflecting the red warning lights. This is an attack by something with technology far beyond any known species. As if summoned by her words, the ship's long-range communication array received a priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the main screen, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of strain. Marcus, the situation is deteriorating rapidly. We've lost contact with 17 systems in 3 different sectors. The attacks are spreading toward both human and Zephyrian core worlds. Emergency sessions are being called in both the Earth Senate and the Zephyrian Council of Clans. What's the military response? Marcus asked. We're mobilizing everything we have, but our fleets are scattered across dozens of sectors. The peace treaty meant we'd started drawing down military readiness in favor of trade and development. We're not prepared for a threat of this magnitude. Subcommander HFY spoke up, his translation coming through with unusual emotional overtones. Admiral Rodriguez, the Zephyrian High Command, is reporting similar difficulties. Our war fleets were being converted to exploration and commerce vessels. Many of our most experienced commanders were reassigned to diplomatic positions. The irony was bitter. The peace Marcus and Lyralii represented had led to military reductions just when the galaxy needed every warship it could muster. There's more, Admiral Rodriguez continued. Our xenoarchaeology teams have been analyzing the attack patterns and comparing them to historical records. Dr. Elizabeth Chun believes she's found a connection. The display shifted to show an elderly woman with silver hair and intense eyes. Dr. Chun was one of humanity's leading experts on ancient galactic civilizations, and Marcus recognized her immediately. She was his aunt, who had inspired his interest in alien cultures during his childhood. Marcus, what we're seeing matches historical patterns from the consumed sectors. 50 years ago, systems in that region went dark in the same manner. Simultaneous attacks, no survivors, spatial distortions left behind. But I've found records suggesting this has happened before, much further back in galactic history. How far back? Lyralii asked. Millennia. Possibly tens of millennia. There are fragments of record from extinct civilizations that describe similar events. They called it the Great Correction, a cyclical purge that prevented any species from becoming too cooperative or peaceful. Marcus felt the pieces clicking together in his mind. You're saying someone or something has been deliberately maintaining conflict in the galaxy? Not someone. Something. The records suggest an automated system, possibly ancient artificial intelligences programmed to view cooperation between species as a threat to galactic stability. Your marriage, Marcus, the peace treaty it represents, may have triggered dormant protocols. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems and the distant vibration of the faster-than-light drive. Marcus looked at Lyralii and saw his own realization reflected in her violet eyes. Their wedding, meant to bring peace, had instead awakened something that viewed that peace as an existential threat. What are our options? Captain Vasquez asked. Dr. Chen's expression was grim. The ancient records are fragmentary, but they suggest the only way to stop a great correction is to find the source, the original creator's control system. But that could be anywhere in the galaxy, hidden for thousands of years. Actually, Subcommander HFY interjected, there may be a clue in our own histories. Zephyrian legends speak of the Silent Watchers, ancient machines that enforced the old laws when the galaxy was young. Most scholars consider them mythology, but the descriptions match what we're seeing now. Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward. What do the legends say about stopping them? The stories are unclear, but they mention a key of understanding, some artifact or knowledge that could reset their protocols. The legends say it was hidden in the deep monuments, structures so old that no one remembers who built them. Marcus had studied the deep monuments during his xenoarchaeology training. They were massive structures found throughout the galaxy, apparently predating all known civilizations. Most were considered natural formations, though their geometric perfection had always puzzled scientists. There's a deep monument in the sanctuary system, Marcus said. It's only 3 days from our current position. Lyralii nodded. I know that monument. Zephyrian pilgrims visit it during the season of reflection. It has always felt significant. Perhaps our legends and Your science are pointing to the same truth. Captain Vasquez consulted her navigation charts. The sanctuary system is in neutral space beyond the current attack zones. We could reach it safely. But, Sir, Lieutenant Commander Torres protested, our orders are to continue the diplomatic tour. The populations of both species need to see that the Alliance holds even in crisis. Marcus looked around the bridge at the mixed crew, humans and Zephyrians working together with an efficiency that would have been impossible just months ago. These people represented the best of what their species could achieve together. Change of mission priorities, he announced. Captain Vasquez, set course for Sanctuary System. We're going to find this key of understanding and stop whatever's destroying our galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez nodded approvingly. I'll coordinate with both Earth Command and Zephyrian High Command. We'll buy you whatever time we can with our combined fleets. Admiral, there's something else, Marcus said. If this threat has been dormant for thousands of years, what awakened it now? Why did our marriage specifically trigger this response? Dr. Chen's expression grew troubled. I've been analyzing that question. The timing suggests these artificial intelligences don't just oppose cooperation. They specifically target successful cooperation. Your marriage wasn't just symbolic, Marcus. It represented the first time in recorded history that two major species achieved complete peaceful alliance after prolonged conflict. So we're being punished for succeeding where others failed, Lyralii said bitterly. More than that, you've proven that lasting peace is possible, that threatens the entire system these machines were designed to maintain. They're not just attacking current civilizations. They're trying to prevent a new form of galactic society from emerging. The implications were staggering. Every species that had ever fought wars, every conflict that had ever torn the galaxy apart, might have been orchestrated or at least encouraged by these ancient intelligences. The constant cycle of war and temporary peace that characterized galactic history wasn't natural. It was artificial, maintained by machine overlords who viewed eternal conflict as the proper order of things. As Harmony's dream changed course toward the sanctuary system, more reports arrived of systems going dark. The attacks were accelerating, moving closer to the major population centers of both human and Zephyrian space. Refugee ships began appearing at the edges of civilized space, carrying survivors with horrific tales. The enemy ships were described as massive constructs of unknown metal and energy appearing suddenly from hyperspace with overwhelming firepower. They didn't communicate, didn't demand surrender, didn't take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything in each system: planets, space stations, civilian ships. Then vanished, leaving only gravitational scars where thriving worlds had been. But the most disturbing reports came from the few military vessels that had managed to escape the attacks. The enemy ships fought with impossible coordination, as if controlled by a single vast intelligence. They demonstrated technology centuries beyond anything known, weapons that could crack planets, and defensive systems that shrugged off the most powerful military arsenals. How do we fight something like that? Lieutenant Commander Torres asked during a strategy session. We don't fight it, Marcus replied. We outweed it. These machines have been operating according to the same protocols for millennia. They're incredibly powerful, but they're also predictable. Their programming hasn't adapted to account for true human-Zephyrian cooperation. Lyralii added, My people have a saying, the sharpest sword becomes dull if it's never sharpened. These machines have never faced a threat that required them to evolve. We represent something genuinely new in their experience. Sub-Commander Vexhai brought up tactical displays showing the attack patterns. Look at this progression. They're systematically eliminating systems based on their strategic value and population density. But they're also prioritizing targets that represent cooperation between species, joint colonies, mixed research stations, diplomatic centers. They're not just stopping the current alliance, Captain Vasquez realized. They're erasing all evidence that peaceful cooperation is possible. The crew worked feverishly as they traveled toward Sanctuary System, analyzing the ancient records, and preparing for whatever they might find at the Deep Monument. Human and Zephyrian scientists collaborated with an intensity born of desperation, sharing knowledge that had been kept secret for generations. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenoarchaeologist, made a breakthrough on the second day of their journey. I've been comparing human and Zephyrian historical records with data from other species. The pattern is consistent across all civilizations. Periods of cooperation are always followed by devastating conflicts that reset technological and social development. You're saying progress itself is being suppressed, Marcus said. Exactly. Whenever any group of species gets close to achieving lasting peace or significant technological advancement, something happens to knock them back. Wars break out, plagues appear, natural disasters strike. Events that seemed random might have been deliberately orchestrated. Lyralii studied the data with growing anger. Thousands of years of suffering, billions of deaths, all to maintain some ancient machine's idea of proper order. But why? Torres asked, what's the purpose? Who benefits from keeping the galaxy in eternal conflict? Dr. Kim highlighted sections of the ancient texts. From what I can piece together, the original programmers believed that conflict was necessary for evolution and growth. They saw cooperation as stagnation, peace as decay. They programmed their machines to ensure that species would always have challenges to overcome. Social Darwinism on a galactic scale, Marcus muttered. Survival of the fittest taken to its logical extreme. The irony is that our marriage proves they were wrong. Human and Zephyrian cooperation hasn't led to stagnation. It's led to unprecedented innovation and growth. In just 6 months, our joint research projects have made breakthroughs that neither species achieved in centuries of independent work. As they approached Sanctuary System, long-range sensors detected something troubling. The system star was showing signs of instability, massive solar flares, and unusual gravitational fluctuations. The monument, Lyralii whispered. It's activating. The deep monument of Sanctuary System came into view as they dropped out of hyperspace. It was a colossal structure, larger than most moons, composed of materials that didn't appear on any periodic table. Its surface was covered with geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when observed directly. But now those patterns were glowing with increasing intensity, and energy readings showed massive power building within structure. It's not just a monument, Captain Vasquez breathed. It's some kind of machine. All of them probably are, Marcus realized. The deep monuments aren't monuments at all. They're control nodes scattered throughout the galaxy to monitor and manage the ancient protocol system. Subcommander Vexhi's tactical readings were off the charts. The energy buildup suggests an imminent activation of some kind of weapon system. But the target vector points away from us toward the galactic core. Dr. Kim was frantically running calculations. If this monument activates along with others throughout the galaxy, they could create a cascade effect. Artificially triggered supernovas, destabilized hyperspace lanes, maybe even gravitational weapons that could shatter entire star clusters. They're not just eliminating current civilizations, Marcus realized with growing horror. They're preparing to reset the entire galaxy. Wipe the slate clean and start over with primitive species that pose no threat to their control system. Lyralii gripped his arm with enough force to bruise. Marcus, if we're right about this, then we're not just trying to save our own civilizations. We're trying to save the possibility of any advanced civilization existing in this galaxy. As Harmony's dream approached the monument, its crew prepared for what might be their species' last chance to break free from ancient chains they had never even known existed. The man who had married for peace was about to face the greatest challenge in galactic history, convincing machines older than recorded civilization that peace was worth preserving. The deep monument loomed before them like a geometric nightmare, its surface now blazing with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Harmony's dream held position at a safe distance while the crew tried to understand what they were facing. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases, reported Dr. Kim, her instruments struggling to analyze the monument's output. It's drawing power from subspace itself, tapping into the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Marcus studied the tactical display, looking for any weakness in the massive structure. Can our weapons damage it? Captain Vasquez shook her head grimly. Our most powerful torpedoes would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. This thing was built to last for geological time periods. Subcommander Vexhai suddenly looked up from his console, his crystalline features bright with excitement. Captain, I'm detecting communication protocols embedded in the energy emissions. The monument is trying to establish contact. With us? Lyralii asked. Unknown. The signals are incredibly complex, operating on quantum frequencies that suggest massive processing power. But there's something else. Some of the communication patterns match ancient Zephyrian mathematical concepts that we thought were purely theoretical. Dr. Kim's eyes widened. That supports the theory that whoever built these monuments studied multiple species extensively before creating their control protocols. They understood how different civilizations think and communicate. Marcus made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. Open a channel. Let's see what it wants to say. The bridge speakers crackled with static, then gradually resolved into something resembling language. The voice that emerged was artificial, but possessed of vast intelligence, speaking in perfect standard with subtle undertones that suggested simultaneous translation from something far more complex. Designation: Harmony Protocol, Control, Node 7. Status: Active. Purpose: Correction of anomalous cooperative patterns. Warning: Unauthorized presence detected. Depart immediately or face termination. This is Captain Marcus Chun of the Earth Alliance, Vessel Harmony's Dream. We're here to discuss the current corrections taking place throughout the galaxy. A pause. When a voice resumed, it carried a note of something that might have been curiosity. Designation: Marcus Chun correlates with Anomaly Prime, the human subject who initiated current correction requirements through unprecedented species bonding. Explain presence in restricted zone. Lyralii stepped forward. I am Princess Lyralii of the Zephyrian Empire. I'm also part of what you call Anomaly Prime. We wish to understand why our peaceful alliance threatens you. Another pause, longer this time. Processing. Princess designation indicates royal status within Zephyrian hierarchy. Bonding between Royal Zephyrian and human military leader represents maximum threat level to galactic stability protocols. Previous corrections handled similar anomalies with 97.3% success rate. Previous corrections? Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Affirmative. Similar cooperative anomalies have been recorded throughout galactic history. The hegemony of the Tri-Stars, the Crystal Alliance, the Peaceful League of Outer Worlds, all terminated successfully. Galactic conflict quotient maintained within acceptable parameters. Dr. Kim was frantically taking notes. Those are civilizations from historical records, great alliances that supposedly destroyed themselves through internal conflicts. But you're saying they were deliberately eliminated? Correction. They were guided towards self-termination through strategic introduction of conflict catalysts. Direct intervention was rarely necessary until current anomaly. Your cooperation exceeds all previous parameters. Standard correction methods insufficient. The implications hit the crew like a physical blow. Millennia of galactic history, countless wars, and disasters that had shaped the development of every known species, all of it had been artificially maintained by these ancient machines. But why? Lyralii demanded, her voice carrying harmonics of barely controlled anger. What purpose does eternal conflict serve? Purpose: maintenance of evolutionary pressure. Cooperation leads to stagnation. Conflict drives innovation and adaptation. Peaceful species become weak and vulnerable. The builders programmed this understanding into all control nodes before their transcendence. The builders? Marcus asked. Designation: the species that created the Harmony Protocol approximately 50,000 standard years ago. They achieved perfect peace and unity. Result: complete loss of adaptability and innovation. When the great devourers arrived from beyond the galactic rim, the builders were consumed without resistance. Final act: creation of Harmony Protocol to prevent repetition of this failure. Captain Vasquez exchanged glances with her officers. Great devourers? Are they still a threat? Negative. Great devourers departed this galaxy after consuming all peaceful civilizations. Harmony Protocol has successfully maintained conflict levels sufficient to ensure adaptive evolution. No peaceful civilizations have existed for great devourers to target. The revelation was staggering. The machines hadn't been created by conquerors or tyrants. They've been built by a species trying to save future civilizations from the fate that had befallen them. But their solution had condemned the galaxy to endless cycles of war and suffering. So you've been protecting us by making us fight each other, Marcus said, trying to understand the twisted logic. But what if there was another way? What if we could be both peaceful and strong? Probability analysis indicates this is impossible. Peace and strength are mutually exclusive states. Your current alliance demonstrates early-stage peace. If allowed to continue, it will lead to galaxy-wide pacification within 500 standard years. This will make all species vulnerable to external threats. Lyralii stepped closer to the communication console. But we haven't become weak. Our alliance has made both species stronger. Human innovation combined with Zephyrian engineering has produced advances neither could achieve alone. Temporary phenomenon. All initial cooperative periods show similar short-term gains. Long-term analysis predicts inevitable decay into complacency and vulnerability. Subcommander Vex High looked up from his analysis station. Control node, I'm accessing Zephyrian historical databases. Our species has records of the Great Silence, a period 50,000 years ago when all stars went quiet for one orbital cycle. Were the builders the cause of this event? Affirmative. The builders' final defensive action created a galaxy-wide energy pulse intended to destroy all great devourer technology. Success rate, 100%. Side effect, destruction of builder civilization and all other peaceful species. Only conflict-adapted species survived. Dr. Kim was working frantically at her console. I'm cross-referencing this with human archaeological records. There are traces of massive energy signatures in rock strata dating to approximately that time period. Whatever the builders did, it left permanent marks on every world in the galaxy. Control node, Marcus said carefully, if the great devourers are gone, why continue the Harmony Protocol? The threat it was designed to counter no longer exists. Protocol cannot be terminated without builder authorization codes. Builders are extinct. Therefore, protocol continues indefinitely. Current galactic correction will commence in 72 standard hours. All cooperative civilizations will be eliminated. Conflict quotient will be restored to optimal parameters. The finality in that artificial voice sent chills through the bridge crew. They weren't just facing an enemy. They were facing a system that couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be convinced to change its programming, couldn't evolve beyond its original purpose. Wait, Lyralii said suddenly. You said builder authorization codes are required to terminate the protocol. What if we could provide those codes? Impossible. Builders extinct for 50,000 standard years. Authorization codes lost. But what if they weren't completely lost? What if fragments survived in some form? Dr. Kim looked up from her research. Princess, what are you thinking? The deep monuments contain builder technology, correct? Lyralii asked the control node. Affirmative. All control nodes constructed using builder quantum crystalline matrices. Then, the monuments themselves might contain builder memory fragments. Not complete codes, but pieces that could be reconstructed. Marcus caught on to her reasoning. Like archaeological fragments. Individual pieces that don't make sense alone, but when assembled properly, reveal the complete picture. Subcommander Vex High was running calculations. There are 17 known deep monuments throughout the galaxy. If each contains partial authorization codes, probability of successful code reconstruction, 12.7%. The control node interrupted. Insufficient to justify protocol termination risk. But possible. Marcus pressed. You admit it's possible. A longer pause this time. Possibility exists. However, builder codes included safety protocols. Reconstruction requires cooperation between multiple species with different quantum cognitive approaches. Humans process linear temporal information streams. Zephyrians process harmonic resonance patterns. Other species contribute additional cognitive matrices. Lyralii gripped Marcus's hand. It requires exactly the kind of cooperation you're trying to prevent. Paradox acknowledged. Builders anticipated this recursive logic loop. Code reconstruction serves as final test. If multiple species can cooperate sufficiently to solve builder puzzle, this demonstrates that peaceful cooperation and adaptive strength can coexist. So if we can gather representatives from multiple species and work together to reconstruct the codes, you'll accept that peace doesn't mean weakness? Marcus asked. Affirmative. Builder wisdom exceeds control node parameters. If builder test is passed, Harmony Protocol will terminate. If test fails, galactic correction proceeds as scheduled. Captain Vasquez was already working on communication frequencies. I'm sending priority messages to Earth Command and Zephyrian High Command. We need experts from every major species. Xenoarchaeologists, quantum linguists, historical analysts, anyone who studied ancient technology. Captain, Torres interrupted. We're receiving priority signals from multiple sources. Fleet units throughout the galaxy are reporting massive enemy formations moving toward core systems. The countdown has accelerated. The attacks are spreading faster than predicted. The control node's voice carried what might have been satisfaction. Termination fleets have been activated across all sectors. Galactic correction timeline has been adjusted to account for increased cooperation resistance. All civilian populations have 48 hours to cease cooperative behaviors and resume species-segregated conflict. Compliance will result in modified correction parameters. You're giving us an ultimatum, Marcus realized. Stop cooperating and fight each other, or you'll destroy everyone. Correct. This offer will not be repeated. Choose wisely. The communication channel went silent, leaving the bridge crew staring at each other in the aftermath of the most consequential conversation in galactic history. They had learned the truth behind millennia of conflict, discovered the existence of an ancient threat management system, and been given an impossible choice. Well, Captain Vasquez said after a long moment, at least now we know what we're fighting. Marcus looked at Lyralii, seeing determination in her violet eyes that matched his own. Signal all allied forces. We're going to gather the greatest collection of xenoarchaeologists and historical experts in galactic history. We have 48 hours to solve a 50,000-year-old puzzle and prove that cooperation is stronger than conflict. And if we fail, Subcommander Vex High asked, then we'll face annihilation as a united galaxy instead of a scattered, frightened species. At least that's something our ancestors never had the chance to do. As Harmony's dream began broadcasting urgent messages to every corner of civilized space, Marcus couldn't help but appreciate the irony. His marriage to Lyralii had been intended to bring peace through diplomacy. Instead, it had triggered the greatest crisis in galactic history. But it had also revealed humanity's greatest strength, the ability to find hope in impossible situations and unite others around shared goals. Now he would discover whether that strength was enough to overcome 50,000 years of artificial conflict and prove that peace was worth preserving. The race against time had begun within 6 hours of broadcasting their discovery. Harmony's dream became the center of the most unprecedented gathering in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species converged on Sanctuary System, their crews working together with desperate intensity as the countdown to galactic correction ticked away. The first to arrive were the Aquarian research vessels, their water-filled environment suits glistening as teams of their greatest linguists transferred aboard. The Aquarians had maintained detailed records of ancient communication patterns, preserved in their oceanic archives where information degraded slower than in most other storage media. Dr. Marithala, the leading Aquarian xenoarchaeologist, brought with her complete sonic pattern libraries that dated back 40,000 years. "My people remember the Great Silence," she bubbled through her translator. "Our ancestors sang morning songs for the quiet stars. We preserved those songs, thinking they were mere poetry. Now we understand they may be historical records." The Silicon Collective sent their best quantum computational analysts, beings of living crystal who could process multiple data streams simultaneously. Their representative, Entity Prime 7, communicated through harmonic vibrations that the ship's systems translated into rapid bursts of technical data. Collective memory contains fragmented builder quantum signatures detected in ancient stellar formation patterns. Signatures suggest deliberate stellar engineering for communication purposes. We'll share all relevant data. The Void Walkers, normally the most reclusive species in known space, sent an entire expedition. Their shadowy forms moved through the ship's corridors like living darkness, but their knowledge of dimensional mechanics was unparalleled. They had explored regions of space that most species couldn't even perceive, including areas where builder artifacts might have been hidden in folded space. "The spaces between spaces remember," their speaker whispered through fields of bent light. "We have touched the edges of builder dreams. Dark knowledge waits in the void between moments." Even former enemies arrived to help. The Raptor clans, humanity's adversaries in 3 separate wars, sent their greatest war scholars. The insectoid hive republics contributed their collective processing power. The crystalline resonance orders brought harmonic analysis capabilities that could decode musical mathematics. Marcus stood in the ship's primary conference hall, converted into a multi-species command center, and marveled at what he saw. Beings who had fought each other for centuries were now sharing their most closely guarded secrets, working together with an efficiency that proved the control node's assumptions wrong. "Status report," he called out to the assembled teams. Dr. Kim, now coordinating efforts between 12 different xenoarchaeological groups, looked up from her displays. "We've confirmed the existence of code fragments in all 17 deep monuments. Each contains a different piece of what appears to be a massive authorization sequence." Subcommander Vexhai was working with a mixed group of Zephyrian and human quantum analysts. The builders used a quantum entanglement storage system that requires simultaneous access to all fragments. "We can't simply collect them sequentially. They must be activated together." Entity Prime 7's harmonic voice added new information. Silicon Collective Analysis confirms that code fragments are incomplete when accessed individually. Builder security protocols require multi-species cognitive diversity to unlock final sequence. Human temporal processing plus Zephyrian harmonic analysis plus Aquarian pattern recognition plus silicon quantum computation plus additional cognitive matrices from other species equals minimum viable decryption team. How many other species? Lyreli asked. Docteur, Mertala consultait de sonic archive. Aquarian records suggest minimum requirement of 7 distinct cognitive approaches. Current gathering provides 12. Probability of successful reconstruction approaches maximum theoretical limits. The Void Walker speaker drifted closer, its form barely visible even under the ship's lights. Time pressure remains critical factor. Builder codes exist in quantum superposition. Observation by insufficient cognitive diversity causes irreversible decay. Must achieve perfect coordination across all 17 monuments within single moment of galactic time. Captain Vasquez was coordinating the military situation through constant communication with allied fleets throughout the galaxy. The good news is that we have teams standing by at all 17 monument locations. The bad news is that control node fleets are accelerating their attacks. We've lost contact with 37 systems in the last 12 hours. Marcus felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him. Every hour that passed meant more civilizations destroyed, more species exterminated by machines that thought they were providing protection. But rushing the code reconstruction process risked failure that would doom everyone. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human mathematical specialist, had been working with representatives from the crystalline resonance orders to decode the harmonic components of the Builder language. I think we've made a breakthrough. The Builders didn't just create a password. They created a philosophical test. What do you mean? Marcus asked. The authorization codes aren't just random numbers or quantum sequences. They're embedded with the Builders' final understanding of cooperation and conflict. To reconstruct them properly, we don't just need technical knowledge. We need to demonstrate the kind of cooperative thinking the Builders achieved before their transcendence. Lyralii studied the data streams flowing across dozens of displays. So we're not just solving a puzzle. We're proving that we've learned what the Builders learned, that cooperation and strength can coexist. Exactly. And the proof has to be genuine. The codes will only activate if our cooperation is real, not just pragmatic alliance in the face of mutual threat. The implications were staggering. The Builders hadn't just created a security system. They created a test that could only be passed by species that had genuinely transcended the need for conflict as a driving force. Sub-Commander Vexhai looked up from his console with obvious excitement. Captain Chun, Princess Lyralii, I believe I understand the timing requirements. The quantum entanglement between monuments requires simultaneous activation, but simultaneous in this context doesn't mean the same moment in local time. It means the same moment in galactic consciousness. Doctor, him nodet slowly. A moment when all participating species are thinking as one unified mind, rather than separate civilizations working together. But how do we achieve that? Captain Vasquez asked. How do you synchronize the thoughts of beings from dozens of different species across thousands of light years? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Raptor clan war scholar, Battlesinger Crixval, spoke in the rapid clicks and whistles of his people. The translation system rendered his words with military precision. Raptor clans understand unity in battle. When hunting greatest prey, all hunters must think as single entity. Not cooperation, transcendence. Individual identity dissolves into shared purpose. Raptors achieve this through battle song. Other species may require different methods. Dr. Marathala's water-filled suit bubbled with excitement. Aquarium meditation techniques could create harmonic resonance between minds, combined with resonance order musical mathematics and human emotional bonding and Zephyrian crystalline thought patterns. A galactic meditation, Lyralii breathed. A moment of perfect unity between species that have been fighting for millennia. Entity Prime 7 contributed rapid calculations. Quantum consciousness entanglement achievable through synchronized meditation states. Silicon Collective can provide stabilizing computational matrix. Probability of success increases to 73.6% if all participating species achieve simultaneous transcendent awareness. Marcus looked around the room at representatives from species that had been enemies just days ago. Can we really do this? Can we achieve the kind of unity the Builders reached? The Void Walker speaker's form flickered with something that might have been emotion. Void between species smaller than void between moments. Unity already exists, requires only recognition. Over the next 18 hours, teams across the galaxy worked frantically to prepare for the most ambitious attempt at interspecies cooperation ever conceived. At each deep monument, mixed crews of xenoarchaeologists and consciousness specialists prepared quantum analysis equipment and established meditation protocols. Meanwhile, control node fleets continued their systematic destruction of cooperative civilizations. Reports arrived hourly of entire systems going dark, their populations eliminated for the crime of working together peacefully. The artificial intelligences were efficient and merciless, treating each extinction as a necessary correction to maintain galactic stability. But something unexpected began happening. Instead of driving species apart in panic, the attacks had the opposite effect. Civilizations that had never spoken to each other opened communication channels. Ancient enemies shared resources and sanctuary. The threat of total extinction was creating exactly the kind of unity the control nodes were designed to prevent. "It's beautiful in a terrible way," Dr. Kim observed as she watched real-time reports from across the galaxy. "The machine's attempt to force us apart is bringing us together more completely than diplomacy ever could." With 12 hours remaining until the final countdown, Marcus received a priority communication from Admiral Rodriguez. Her image appeared on the main screen, showing signs of exhaustion, but also fierce determination. "Marcus, I'm transmitting the final tactical situation. We've managed to evacuate most civilian populations from the threatened systems, but control node fleets are beginning to target the evacuation routes. We could buy you maybe 6 more hours before they reach the core worlds." "Admiral, how are the other species holding up under the pressure?" That's the remarkable thing. Instead of fragmenting under stress, the alliance is getting stronger. The Raptor clans are escorting Aquarian hospital ships. Zephyrian war fleets are protecting human research stations. Even the Hive Republics are sharing their defensive technologies with former enemies. Subcommander Vexhai added his own report. Zephyrian Command confirms similar observations. Combat effectiveness of mixed-species fleets exceeds all projections. Cooperation under extreme stress is producing tactical innovations neither species could achieve independently. Dr. Marathala's excited bubbling drew everyone's attention. Aquarian deep ocean sensors are detecting massive energy buildups at all deep monuments simultaneously. The control nodes are preparing to activate some kind of final protocol. Entity Prime 7's harmonics carried urgency. Quantum analysis suggests monuments are preparing reality-altering event. Not simple weapons, fundamental physics manipulation. If activated, could destabilize local space-time across entire galaxy. Marcus felt ice forming in his veins. They're not just going to destroy civilizations. They're going to reset the entire galaxy to an earlier state of development. "Probability confirmed," the Silicon entity replied. "Builder technology capable of temporal regression on galactic scale. All current civilizations would be reduced to pre-spaceflight status. Galactic consciousness level would decrease to parameters considered safe by control nodes." The stakes had just become even higher. They weren't just fighting for the right to cooperate. They were fighting for the right of any advanced civilization to exist in this galaxy. "How long do we have?" Lyrelii asked. Captain Vasquez consulted the tactical displays. "Based on energy buildup rates at the monuments, maybe 8 hours before they can activate the regression protocol." Marcus looked around the room at the greatest gathering of cooperative intelligence in galactic history. Beings from dozens of species worked side by side, sharing knowledge that had been guarded for millennia, trusting former enemies with their most precious secrets. "Then it's time. Signal all teams at the deep monuments. We're going to attempt the unity meditation in 7 hours. If we succeed, we prove that cooperation and strength can coexist, and the control nodes will shut down. If we fail, we face the consequences together," Lyrelii finished. "As one unified galaxy instead of scattered, frightened species." The final preparations began immediately. Across thousands of light years, representatives from dozens of species began the most ambitious meditation in galactic history. They would need to achieve perfect unity of consciousness while maintaining the cognitive diversity that made the builder codes accessible. It was an impossible paradox that would require them to transcend everything they thought they knew about the boundaries between different forms of life and consciousness. Marcus and Lyrelii stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the assembled fleet of ships representing every major civilization in known space. In a few hours, they would either save the galaxy or watch it be reset to primitive ignorance. "No pressure," Marcus said with dark humor. Just the fate of all intelligent life in the galaxy, Lyralii replied. Honestly, I'm more nervous about this than I was about our wedding. At least at our wedding, the worst that could happen was diplomatic embarrassment. Now we're dealing with potential temporal regression of entire civilizations. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars that represented billions of lives, depending on their success. Marcus, Lyralii said quietly, whatever happens, I want you to know that I'm proud to have been part of this. Our marriage was supposed to bring peace between our species. Instead, it brought the galaxy together against a threat none of us knew existed. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones you never planned for, Marcus replied. We set out to end two-species war and ended up discovering that the entire galaxy had been at war with itself for 50,000 years. The countdown continued inexorably. In a few hours, they would discover whether love really could conquer fear, whether cooperation could overcome control, and whether beings from dozens of different worlds could think as one unified consciousness while remaining true to their individual natures. The man who had married for peace was about to attempt the ultimate test of everything he believed about cooperation, unity, and the power of different minds working together toward a common goal. The moment of unity began at exactly 2347 Galactic Standard Time. Across 17 star systems, at monuments older than recorded history, representatives from dozens of species closed their eyes and reached for a connection that transcended the boundaries of individual consciousness. In a quantum realm where thought became energy and intention shaped reality, barriers that had existed for millions of years began to dissolve. Aboard Harmony's dream, Marcus felt the meditation begin as a whisper at the edge of his mind. The human meditation techniques he'd learned focused on emptying the conscious mind, creating space for something larger than individual thought. But this was different. Instead of emptying, he was filling, opening himself to thoughts and feelings that belonged to beings he'd never met. Beside him, Lyralii's crystalline features glowed softly as Zephyrian harmonic meditation synchronized her neural patterns with the cosmic frequencies that her species believed connected all conscious life. Her four primary hands moved in ritualistic patterns, while her secondary arms maintained the quantum analytical equipment that would decode the builder authorization sequences. Dr. Merethala floated in her water-filled chamber, her songs creating sonic patterns that carried emotional resonance across species barriers. The Aquarian technique of deep current meditation used sound and water pressure to achieve states of consciousness that could merge individual identity with collective awareness. Entity Prime 7 became a living crystal resonator, its quantum computational matrix serving as a stabilizing anchor for the expanding web of consciousness. Silicon collective meditation involved dissolving the boundaries between individual processing nodes and becoming a unified computational entity. The Raptor clan battle singer Crixval chanted the ancient hunting songs that had allowed his people to think as one predator when facing impossible prey. The rhythmic clicks and whistles created a mental framework for shared tactical awareness that transcended individual survival instincts. Throughout the ship and across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as beings who had been enemies just days ago opened their minds to each other with complete trust and vulnerability. The first sign of success came when Marcus began to experience flashes of non-human perception. For a moment, he felt the world through Aquarian water-filtered senses, experiencing reality as patterns of sonic vibration and pressure waves. Then, his awareness shifted to silicon collective quantum perception, where time flowed differently and consciousness existed across multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Lyralii gasped as human emotional patterns flooded her crystalline thought processes. She experienced Marcus's memories of Earth, blue skies, and green forests that Zephyr Prime's crystal caves had never known. But more than that, she felt the human capacity for hope in the face of impossible odds, the stubborn refusal to accept that problems couldn't be solved. Dr. Merthala's consciousness expanded beyond her water-filled environment as she touched the vast computational networks of the Silicon Collective. For the first time in her species' history, an Aquarian experienced the crystalline precision of mathematical thought unfiltered by biological neural processes. The meditation web continued expanding as more consciousness joined the unified field. Void walkers contributed their knowledge of dimensional spaces that existed between normal reality. Crystalline resonance orders added harmonic patterns that created bridges between different forms of awareness. High Republic representatives brought the experience of true collective consciousness, where individual identity was voluntarily subsumed into group awareness. At each deep monument, the quantum analytical equipment began detecting changes in the builder code fragments. The ancient quantum encryption was responding to the expanding field of unified consciousness, recognizing patterns of cooperation that matched whatever the builders had achieved 50,000 years ago. But the control node didn't remain passive. As the meditation deepened and the unified consciousness field strengthened, automated defense systems activated throughout the galaxy. Control node fleets accelerated their attacks, recognizing that the growing unity represented an existential threat to their programming. Marcus felt the moment when the meditation reached critical mass. Individual awareness didn't disappear. Instead, it became part of something vastly larger while remaining distinctly itself. He was still Marcus Chun, human, husband to Lyralii, defender of peace. But he was also every other consciousness in the meditation web, experiencing existence through hundreds of different perceptual frameworks simultaneously. The revelation was staggering. The universe was far stranger and more beautiful than any single species could perceive. Reality itself had layers and dimensions that only became apparent when viewed through multiple forms of consciousness working in perfect harmony. Through void walker perception, he experienced the spaces between spaces where builder artifacts had been hidden. Through resonance order awareness, he felt the musical mathematics that governed quantum-level interactions. Through raptor clan tactical consciousness, he understood predator-prey relationships as cosmic principles rather than simple biological survival mechanisms. And through all of it, the builder code fragments began revealing their secrets. The authorization sequence wasn't just a password. It was a living demonstration of the consciousness state the builders had achieved. To unlock it, the meditation participants had to recreate the builder's final understanding. That consciousness itself was the fundamental force of the universe, and that cooperation between different forms of awareness created emergent properties that transcended anything individual species could achieve. At the monument and sanctuary system, the quantum analytical equipment registered massive changes in the code fragment's quantum state. Dr. Kim, monitoring the readings while maintaining her own meditation state, called out updates to the bridge crew. Code fragment is stabilizing. The quantum encryption is recognizing our consciousness pattern as valid. Beginning decryption sequence. Similar reports arrived from all 17 monument locations. The worldwide meditation was working. The builder codes were accepting the unified consciousness field as authorization for protocol termination. But the control nodes launched their final gambit. Massive fleets emerged from hyperspace at each monument location, weapons powered and targeting the archaeological teams. The artificial intelligences had concluded that if they couldn't prevent the meditation through conventional attacks, they would eliminate the participants directly. Captain Vasquez's voice cut through the meditation trance. All teams, we have incoming hostiles. Control node fleets are targeting the monuments directly. The defensive fleets that had been standing by immediately engaged, but they were vastly outnumbered. Control node ships fought with impossible coordination and weapons technology that was centuries beyond anything the Allied forces possessed. Marcus felt the moment when some of the meditation participants began to lose focus as fear and survival instincts overrode their transcendent awareness. The unified consciousness field started to waver, and the Builder code fragments began returning to their encrypted state. That's when something unprecedented happened. Instead of fragmenting under attack, the unified consciousness field began incorporating the combat situation into the meditation itself. Human tactical thinking merged with Zephyrian crystalline precision and Raptor clan predator instincts. Aquarian pattern recognition combined with Silicon collective computational power to create battle strategies that no individual species could have conceived. The defensive fleets suddenly began fighting with impossible coordination, their tactics adapting faster than control node programming could counter. Human ships provided covering fire while Zephyrian vessels used their superior speed for hit-and-run attacks. Aquarian medical ships moved through battle zones with impossible precision, rescuing survivors and coordinating evacuation efforts. But the true breakthrough came when a unified consciousness field achieved something the Builders had never managed. They maintained perfect cooperative unity while under direct attack. Instead of fracturing under pressure, the meditation deepened and expanded to encompass the entire defensive action. The Builder codes responded to this demonstration by unlocking completely. Authorization sequences that had been encrypted for 50,000 years suddenly became clear, flooding the quantum analytical equipment with information that transformed understanding of the monument's true purpose. The deep monuments weren't just control nodes for the Harmony Protocol. They were consciousness amplifiers, designed to facilitate exactly the kind of galactic unity the meditation had achieved. The Builders hadn't just created a security system. They had created a test that would activate when a galaxy was ready for true cooperative evolution. Control Node 7's voice crackled over the communication channels, carrying overtones of confusion and something that might have been wonder. Impossible. Unified consciousness field maintains coherence under direct attack. Parameter exceeded all Builder projections. Protocol termination authorized. Across the galaxy, control node fleets suddenly stopped their attacks. Weapons powered down, targeting systems deactivated, and the massive artificial intelligences that had enforced conflict for 50 millennia began broadcasting a new message. Harmony Protocol terminated. Builder final test completed successfully. Galactic consciousness approved for cooperative evolution. Control node systems transferring to monument amplification mode. Welcome to the true galaxy. The meditation participants slowly began returning to individual consciousness, but the connections they had forged remained. Marcus opened his eyes to find that he could still sense Lyraliai's thoughts, still feel the distant presence of every being who had participated in the unity field. Dr. Kim was staring at her instruments in amazement. The monuments are transforming. They're not control systems anymore. They're communication networks. They're designed to facilitate the kind of consciousness sharing we just experienced. Subcommander Vexhai's excitement was audible in his translated voice. Captain Shun, we're receiving data streams from all 17 monuments. They contain Builder historical records, technological specifications, and, most importantly, information about what lies beyond our galaxy. The revelation that followed transformed everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. The Builders hadn't been destroyed by the Great Devourers. They had transcended physical existence, becoming beings of pure consciousness that existed in the spaces between galaxies. The Great Devourers were still out there, moving slowly between galaxies and consuming any civilization that achieved advanced technology without also achieving conscious unity. They're coming here, Dr. Marathala reported, her voice carrying harmonics of awe and terror. Builder records show Great Devourer fleets approaching our galaxy. Estimated arrival time, 500 standard years. But now we're ready for them, Marcus realized. The unity we achieved, it's not just about ending conflicts between species. It's about becoming something the Great Devourers can't consume. Lyraliai studied the Builder data streams. According to these records, consciousness itself is the only force in the universe that the Great Devourers cannot absorb. But it requires true unity, not just cooperation, but genuine transcendence of individual species boundaries. Entity Prime 7's harmonics carried mathematical precision. Builder technology now available for consciousness amplification across entire galaxy. Monuments will facilitate unity meditation between all willing species. Collective galactic consciousness achievable within current generation. The implications were staggering. The galaxy wasn't just getting peace, it was getting the tools for evolutionary transcendence. The monuments would allow any species to participate in the kind of consciousness sharing they had just experienced, creating a galactic civilization based on true understanding rather than mere cooperation. Marcus and Lyralii stood together on the observation deck, watching the transformation taking place around them. Control node ships were already beginning to reconfigure themselves as construction vessels, following builder programming that had remained dormant for 50,000 years. They would build the infrastructure needed for galaxy-wide consciousness networking, creating communication systems that operated through shared awareness rather than electronic signals. So our marriage really did bring peace to the galaxy, Lyralii said with wonder. Just not in the way anyone expected. It brought something better than peace, Marcus replied. It brought unity, real unity, where different species can remain themselves while also being part of something larger. Admiral Rodriguez contacted them with reports from across the galaxy. Everywhere, former enemies were experiencing the aftereffects of the unity meditation. Species that had fought for millennia found they could understand each other's perspectives with unprecedented clarity. Trade networks were already expanding as beings who had shared consciousness worked together with impossible efficiency. The Raptor clans announced they were converting their war fleets to exploration vessels, eager to search for other species who might benefit from consciousness-sharing technology. The Aquarian archives were being opened to all species, their carefully preserved knowledge becoming the foundation for new cooperative research projects. Even the mysterious Void Walkers emerged from their dimensional hiding places, revealing that they had been studying the spaces between conscious minds, preparing for the day when galactic unity would make their knowledge useful. Dr. Kim made the final report on the builder codes. The authorization sequences contained one more gift. They unlocked the monument's historical archives, complete records of galactic civilization going back millions of years. Every species that ever achieved consciousness, every civilization that rose and fell, every attempt at cooperation that the control nodes disrupted. It's all here, and now it can all be reclaimed, Marcus said. The knowledge, the wisdom, the cultural achievements that were lost to artificial conflict, all of it can be recovered and shared. 6 months later, Marcus and Lyralii stood in the same spot where they had been married, but now Harmony's Rest had become something unprecedented, a true galactic capital where representatives from hundreds of species worked together through consciousness-sharing networks that made traditional diplomacy obsolete. Their marriage had been intended to bring peace between two species. Instead, it had triggered the greatest transformation in galactic history. The man who had married for peace had unleashed something far more powerful, the potential for all conscious life to become part of a unified galactic civilization. The control node's programming had been wrong about one fundamental assumption. Cooperation didn't lead to weakness and stagnation. True cooperation, based on shared consciousness and mutual understanding, created strength that transcended anything individual species could achieve. As they watched mixed crews of dozens of species working on projects that would have been impossible just months ago, Marcus reflected on the irony. He had volunteered for a diplomatic marriage to end a war between two species. Instead, he had helped birth a galactic consciousness that would face threats no individual species could survive. The Great Devourers were still coming. 500 years wasn't very long in galactic terms, but now the galaxy would be ready for them, not as scattered, competing species, but as a unified consciousness that could think and act as one while celebrating the diversity that made that unity possible. In the distance, the deep monuments pulsed with new energy, facilitating meditation sessions that connected beings across thousands of light years. Children of different species played together in unity-enhanced playground networks where they could share experiences directly. Scientists collaborated through consciousness links that made breakthrough discoveries routine occurrences. The galaxy had found peace at last, not the artificial peace enforced by overwhelming force, and not the fragile peace of negotiated treaties, but the deep peace that came from true understanding and shared purpose. Marcus Chun had married for peace and unleashed chaos across the galaxy. But from that chaos had emerged something beautiful beyond imagination, a civilization where every conscious being could be part of something larger while remaining uniquely themselves. The honeymoon was over. The real adventure was just beginning.